In this Advanced Marketplace webinar, we will step back and take a look at Application Lifecycle Management from a high-level holistic view. We will break down the barriers of IT persona and roles and look at what connects the dots for a truly successful Application Lifecycle Management environment.
So I'm Joey Howe. I'm the Senior Solution Architect for Advanced Marketplace. Today we're going to be talking about HP Application Lifecycle Management. So just to give you a little bit of insight before we get started with Advanced Marketplace, our corporate office is based in Tampa, Florida. We're essentially a business solution provider, an HP Platinum partner, and just our expertise is across the HP product line. Myself personally, I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the lead technical expert for Application Lifecycle Management for Advanced Marketplace. Just to give you a little bit of background about myself, before joining Advanced Marketplace, I was a senior application developer and .NET subject matter expert for Duke Energy. Before that, I was leading IT management for the Consumer Testing Center of Excellence for Bank of America, and I was actually a solution architect before joining the channel and partner side, a senior solution architect for HP Software Direct. So that's just an introduction, a quick introduction. Once again, we're going to be talking application lifecycle management, and it's going to be a different twist, right? We're going to look at the ALM product set itself, but we're going to take a step back and look at the higher level view. But first, I thought I'd start with something that is not application lifecycle management. That would be the Affordable Care Act, so ACA, more commonly known as Obamacare, and specifically the healthcare.gov online exchange websites. It's really easy to connect with this. From everybody on this call that's in the business of delivering quality applications, we've all heard about this for the past few weeks, but just to give you a little bit of insight, we had 4 main delivery vendors providing the application. One thing that we found out is first week alone, only 1% of the 3.7 million users looking to register were able to successfully complete the registration process. They only allowed 2 weeks for integrated testing. There's a lot of shared internal emails around, particular points like the lack of security testing and potential security vulnerabilities, and a whole bunch of finger pointing just internally going on. So that's what we kind of really know from a high level without digging in and really investigating the individual aspects. Now, a lot of people have taken a different spin on this. So, of course, a lot of people have said this as an APM opportunity, application performance management or monitoring from an operations standpoint, but that's somewhat true. But, I'd like to take a step back and say, this is really an ALM initiative. If we look at it, this project plan was for a strategic technical delivery, right? An application that didn't exist. So this is brand new. Just to put it in kind of a mindset, this is 5 times more complicated, more user-facing than any other healthcare initiative the government's ever undertaken. So, there wasn't really a benchmark. So it comes back down to understanding what the needs of the site were going to be early, because this is not run today in production. Probably a little bit of lack of firm requirements, fluid requirements. There was always changes in the law. There was a lot of, back and forth from a political standpoint when the law was introduced. So, we had fluid requirements, and so you really have to take a step back and understand, were those requirements being managed appropriately in an efficient manner? Development strategy also came up, with these different vendors really just kind of doing their own thing in a siloed fashion, right? Integrated testing didn't start until 2 weeks before the go live date. We have to wonder if there was lack of communication between the teams that were involved, or if that could have been sped up through some form of collaboration. And then we have the concept of out-of-date development practices that kind of crept out a little bit. Are we using the correct type of technologies? Are the technologies already outdated by the time we go live? Some of those conversations have come up, and lack of testing in general. We had some integrated testing. We had 2 weeks allotted for integrated testing before go live. That is by no means probably the amount of testing that a $3 million development initiative probably should have been allocated. But we have to wonder how much true functional testing, performance testing, and security testing even took place. And of course, we've already talked about the APM scan. We know that it has performance problems. They documented that once it went live that they were encountering performance problems, and they put up their splash pages. The other thing is, do we know about how incidents and events are being handled? We know every application is not going to be perfect when it goes live, but we also have to really take a step back and understand, are they handling the events that are occurring in an appropriate manner so that they can be effective with it? They're not handling the same or high volume number of incident requests that really just come down to the same thing of poor performance of the application. Configuration and change management is also something that we are very aware of from a standpoint of them trying to get the application stable and available. In my opinion, with these sporadic releases and documenting almost real-time when the site is going to be unavailable for users to actually interact with, that's not really a complete and an appropriate configuration and change management strategy. They're essentially fixing the application in a piecemeal fashion in production. So we've already seen that some fixes have broken other opportunity or other parts of the application. They've had opportunities probably to slow that methodology down, plan that better, and it seems that there's a big rush or a push to meet the second go live date, which is the end of November. And then even reporting on what truly is the impact, what truly is the issues with the application seem to be a challenge. So not to spend too much time on that, but that's kind of what we're connected with. And so that's why I'm going to take a step back and really describe ALM. ALM more of a process. Now, when we look at HP, you have to look and say, is application lifecycle management a methodology or a software product? From the HP standpoint, it's both. HP is a market-leading solution provider that provides a software suite that supports ALM for your technology methodology in a really, kind of to meet any software delivery initiative. But to make matters confusing, because they are a market leader, we have branded one product ALM, and ALM is the core to how we embark and really deliver on an ALM methodology. So you'll hear ALM used several times in the HP suite of products, especially in the QA stage. And I just wanted to level set and say, it is both. What we're looking at today is how can we really leverage the methodology using the products which are named the same. So if that helps set any kind of confusion to rest. Now, you've also heard Quality Center. So I will say Quality Center is the former version of the new ALM enterprise platform. So you can almost use the two in the same context, but ALM is an enterprise quality product. It has more features than standalone Quality Center, even though from an ALM standpoint, methodology standpoint, the two are very comparable. So just looking at the IT suite of products, this is the HP IT Performance Suite as it exists today. So if you haven't engaged with HP software recently in the past, this is just going to be a level set to help you understand kind of the new branding with the actual software suite of products. So what we've done is we've consolidated all the software products from a build, deliver, run perspective into one suite of products called HP IT Performance Suite. So you'll find everything, and it's broken down very similar to this. Now, the applications that we're used to using kind of fall under the cloud hybrid, even though they can also be independent standalone products. They kind of fall underneath the cloud umbrella. And specifically what we're going to be discussing today is the Application Lifecycle Management umbrella. But keep in mind that there is an overreaching and a foundation part of the suite that also goes along hand in hand with ALM. For one, that would be strategy, planning, and governance. So when we think about what are we looking to execute on? How do we measure what we're executing on? There is a deep integration and synergy with what you may or may not have heard of, which is the HP Executive Scorecard. That is the enterprise reporting tool. So when you think about strategy, planning, governance, just visibility into what's going on in the development and testing arena, that's what Executive Scorecard is built to deliver. It's an overlay to all the HP Performance Suite product sets. And then as a foundation, all the products are built with extensibility so that we can actually build our own integrations. We can integrate with other third parties. Orchestration. So, really what we can have the product from a workflow engine, automation engine kind of do for us. Collaboration. This is going to make sure we can streamline communications within the actual IT personas and actually have that communication as an asset, a quality asset, so that we know when discussions take place regarding requirements or test cases or test execution or defects, that we can record the conversation as it was happening. And then, of course, mobility, and we'll talk more about mobility. But mobility is becoming very popular in the industry right now, and there's two reasons that is. That's, of course, it's an on the go kind of workplace right now, right? There's a lot of remote work. There's a lot of bring your own device initiatives. There's a lot of exposure to information on our smart devices. And then ultimately the users are really governing what we deliver from an application standpoint right now, and I'll talk more about that later in the presentation. But when we look at ALM in general and break that box down a little more, there is a lot of products that make up that ALM suite. Everywhere from project portfolio management through application lifecycle management. I talked a little bit about an executive scorecard. We have the capabilities to automated lab management. All the different testing suites that are still part of the product set, from development management to performance testing, application security testing, and unified functional testing. And then even a new set of application suites to help us engage the testing process earlier in the release. And some of those things would be like service virtualization and service testing. So those are really the suite of products that make up the ALM product set. Now, if you look at the approach, this would be the ALM methodology. HP's approach is very simplistic from a cycle standpoint. It's plan, deliver, and run. So we want to make sure that we're planning our funds appropriately. We're delivering on the business need. We're making correct decisions as far as the IT decisions that are ultimately going to reflect to the business how well we're performing. We want to be able to deliver on those in a very quick method. So when you think about agile methodologies for software development life cycles, the purpose of that is to speed the market. It's to be the first out, to get a product that's delivered as quickly as possible. And we'll talk about why that is the reason a little later in the slides also. That's one of the motivating factors of why, in general, we have to get in front of application lifecycle management. And then, of course, run. Our integration with our counterparts in the operations space. So how can we share information? How can we automate the information that we've discovered in pre-production and share that with the people that are running the NOC, that are taking the help desk calls? And that's all part of how we integrate and kind of streamline our run cycle. And, of course, I've left out a very important one here. We won't spend a lot of time talking on, but that is retire, right? Making sure that we're looking specifically at the correct portfolio of our product sets. We don't want to build applications just to be building applications and having them sit in our data centers, consume resources, and not be value to the business. So there is the retire piece of the cycle, and that's when we look to decommission applications. If we look at this from a product standpoint, we can look at the same cycle and understand which HP products at a 500-foot view fall into these different categories of the cycle: plan, deliver, and run. Of plan, you may or may not have heard of all of these HP software products. These are all HP products that fall under the IT Performance Suite. But in plan, we're looking at HP Project and Portfolio Management and HP SOA Governance. Both of these are really products that make sure that we're delivering on CIO and CTO needs. So Project and Portfolio Management is covering the IT span as it relates to the applications that we support and the projects that we are engaging. And there's really two project streams. There's the maintenance stream, right? The things that we have running in production that we have to keep running, right? Keep the lights on. And then there's that strategic demand stream. Those are all the new initiatives that are coming down the pipe. Those are the cutting edge products to make our company different from the competitors. You can't do a lot of one or the other. You have to have a very nice mix, because if we, spend all our time keeping the lights on, supporting legacy applications that really weren't generating revenue or was causing us to be behind the times from an application or a technology standpoint, then we're not getting ahead with our competition in the market. Also, we can't just abandon everything that's allowing us to make sure we can see our scan, to make sure that we can do our billing, and then focus just strategically on new initiatives. Because once again, we wouldn't have a business that we were attending. We would just have, we would be a think tank, right? Just trying to spin off new ideas and really not having the resources or the backing to develop those ideas and get them to market. So there's got to be a very nice balance for every organization between those two demand streams. And that's what HP Product and Portfolio Management does. And that's how it actually helps out with the beginning of the ALM life cycle from a methodology standpoint. Of course, when we get into deliver, that is the bread and butter. That's, understanding which portfolios our products or portfolios that we're going to chase down in a given release cycle, having that information sent over to HP ALM, having resources assigned so that we can engage early from a development and test standpoint with the business analysts, with the PMO, so that we can start to define the requirements, to manage the requirements. When requirements change, that we understand quickly what the impact based on the work that we've already accomplished. And then ultimately, from an asset standpoint, execute on the test cases, right? So that once we've defined what our requirements are going to look like, we've integrated with development for the build cycle. For the QA standpoint, we want to understand that we've already got test coverage for the requirements, whether that's functional requirements, performance requirements, security requirements. We want to make sure we have all that documented so we can get the appropriate test cases and assets wrapped around those requirements. And that's what we do from an execution standpoint with HP Performance Center, Unified Functional Testing, and Service Test, Service Virtualization. And then there's a couple of other add-ons that, from a maturity standpoint, we can use and leverage to make ourselves more efficient. From an automation standpoint, we can automate the lab management now. So lab management is a fairly new feature, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time discussing some of the new features of ALM, but lab management is one of them. So if you haven't heard of lab management, essentially it's a new functionality that we kind of borrowed from HP Performance Center, and we've expanded to all the products, all the different test sets. What it allows us to do is understand the application under test, or the AUT, design the AUT, provision an AUT, verify that once we ask for an environment to be provisioned for testing, that we can run a kind of a field verification test on it to make sure that it's available. We can assign our test cases, and we can even mix those test cases from a functional, from a performance, from a security standpoint, even manual test cases. We understand which test cases have to be executed, and then once we have our results from the execution of the test sets, we're able to decommission that environment and free up those resources for other testing, other test sets, other test initiatives. So it's a way for us to streamline kind of the assets that we have, the infrastructure that we have for testing activities. And so if we look at this, especially over the past few years, the test organizations aren't really getting more budget or increased budget to manage a whole bunch of test labs. If we start building test environments and swim lanes in a physical sense, we know that we're burning our cycles managing those. So lab management is a way to automate and provision that in a fashion that we're not just having environments sit idle and go unused and just be kept because they may be needed in the future. It allows us the ability to streamline that process, kind of step back. Even though we have the builds in a repository, we can spin them up and spin them down as needed. So that's kind of the thought process between lab management and how you would use that in our QA space. And of course, there's HP Diagnostics and SiteScope. These are two products that really live in the monitoring, the ESM space, but have always had tight integration, specifically around performance testing. So when we think about APM, we think about applications that are having performance problems, like the healthcare website. HP Diagnostics and SiteScope can integrate our application data with our test data from a performance standpoint. So being able to understand these APM issues and resolve them pre-production without the worry of how an application is going to respond when it goes to production is one way we would leverage those product sets. Now, the great thing about Diagnostics and SiteScope, those are the same products that we're using for operation monitoring. So what happens is if we say, this is what we're seeing in pre-production, we're very comfortable that the application is going to be stable under these volumes, and we go live and there's an issue. Maybe it's even a misconfiguration or we lose a device. If we start to have impact, because we're using the same monitoring solution, we can understand what the impact is, what is being affected in the application from an operations or a production standpoint in a much more effective manner because we're using the same products to monitor both from a pre-production standpoint and a production standpoint. So when resources start engaging in possible triage or war room activities, that process is going to be a lot quicker. It's not going to be a matter of weeks. It's going to be a matter of hours to pinpoint what the problem is because everybody is used to using the same set of tools, the same set of data. And of course, that feeds right into the conversation with how we integrate the ALM process with the production counterparts. First, from a business service management, this would be people that are looking at operation monitoring or running a NOC or an operations center. And then even HP service managers. We spend a lot of time testing, going through all our defect information. And as much as we would like from a QA standpoint, a pre-production standpoint, to have the perfect application, zero defects, and go live, we know that's not always the case. So one thing that we can leverage here as far as integration with the ALM model and methodology is we can take those known defects, right? The ones that aren't critical, the ones that we may already have slated for a fix, but we can't impact what we've already done and we have to go live. We can take that information and we can share that with ITSM products. So we have built-in integration with HT Service Manager, other help desk applications, so that we can push defect information and defect knowledge over to the help desk solution. And that just allows the help desk folks, when they get phone calls of known defects, to quickly search that defect information in the knowledge base, understand if we have any workarounds. So is there a fix that they don't have to quickly that they can quickly provide to a user? They don't have to spend hours of their time trying to dig in for a solution, have back and forth phone calls with the end user, trying to remediate the problem. If they know right away that there is a fix, they can share that with the end user, and the end user is going to have a much better experience knowing that the problem was potentially worked around or quickly resolved, and even provide information around when a fix could be available, if it's going to be more of a lingering issue. So that's how we share information in the ALM methodology with HP Service Manager. And ultimately, all that information that we collect about an environment and application under test, it kind of resides in the HP UCMDB product set. And if you don't know about UCMDB, that's essentially our configuration management database. The way I like to describe that is the known build, right? So this is the as-built state of our application or our environment. It has all the CIs, so configuration items, host, application, ports, you name it. If there's a configurable entity that we want to track, we have that information in the UCMDB as built. Now, what that helps us out with is the next cycle of development, which is the change control and release control. So if we know that there needs to be a change, instead of us just going off, and in the case of the healthcare website, just trying one fix and potentially breaking something else, we can actually put more of a formalized process in place and understand what the impact of our changes are going to be before we just go and make changes in production. And if somebody was to make an unauthorized change in production, we would get that reported back to us. So because we have the as-built state, if we scan and we see that something was configured incorrectly and it wasn't approved, we would have the trail to understand how that change occurred and what that affected. So that's essentially the 500-foot view of the ALM product suite. So how does that affect us as the IT persona, as the workers? Well, I've kind of documented the list of, the high-level personas that are gonna be involved with ALM. And to be honest with you, it's all. So everybody, in some fashion, you're doing this work somehow today, right? So somebody is discovering defects. Somebody's at least trying to document defects. Is it the best way to be going about it? Probably not. And that's why, we're here to kind of talk about better ways to approach ALM and things like that. But one thing I wanted to zoom in on is one IT organization persona that many times is overlooked, and that's really the end user. So, of course, business and end user are driving what technology delivers today. That wasn't always the case. If we look at the old types of users and the technologies in the mainframe era, it was really IT that was driving what IT developed. The business would have a need, and IT would walk in and say, we can do this so much more efficient. Look at what we've developed. It makes your life easier. And then the business ultimately would realize that they weren't saving money. So with what IT was providing, they were saving money. You fast forward a few decades now, and we have everybody carrying smartphones. Our kids going to school carrying tablets. The real driver behind IT now is the end user. The business is just trying to keep up and make sure that the end user is trying to deliver their product. And of course, IT, we're stuck with our small budgets. Wanting to do grandiose things, but trying to figure out what the business is trying to tell us to do, what we need to deliver on, because they're trying to take that feedback from the end user and grow their market. So really, it's like we've taken a triangle or the pyramid and flipped it up on itself. So that's really why I think, realistically, the end user is the driver of technology and technology demand. And of course, we can show these trends. So if we look across some of these key points, mobile applications. So we said we were going to talk about mobile, and mobility is one of the key things that is driving development and test needs right now. We're seeing a very not steep drop off, but a decline in native PC apps and more usage in mobile applications. Our number of releases per month, and this could be driven by a lot of different factors, are increasing. So, it could be the fact that now we have a different development methodology, that we're not doing appropriate testing and we're trying to release every month, and it becomes a snowball effect of fix broken defects and release fix broken defects, release fix things that we may have broken with a release to fix defects, and release again. That's all going to be geared towards really what our rates of release per month are becoming. Of course, we have other technology initiatives like cloud, hybrid clouds, moving data from our internal data centers to cloud data centers. All of that is just really increasing the demand on IT, and it's something that we have to account for. And then, of course, our transaction volume. That is, of course, being increased by just the demand with the number of users that we have on these devices now. So, the fact that anybody can stop in the middle of a sidewalk while walking and look up their transactions from their banking accounts, or look up their account activity from their banking accounts without having to physically stop and be in front of a PC is one of the things that are growing the number of transactions that we have to handle in a daily basis, in an hourly basis. And so our peak demands are really starting to be a lot different than historically what they were in the traditional PC days. And just to give you an idea that it's not just mobility and people playing games like Candy Crush and things like that. It's really changing the way we work. I figured I would just throw in a real world example, and that is HP Anywhere. So Advanced MarketPlace has actually been engaging a lot of our existing customers that have been using the HP software products and helping with both Executive Scorecard, which Executive Scorecard in itself ties in with the data sources of your HP Performance Suites, and can bubble all that information up to a dashboard view. But HP Scorecard has the ability to tie in with HP Anywhere, so that information can be delivered on a handheld or a tablet. That's also true for the other HP product suites. So when we look at, let's say, HP ALM, and we want to, we're the IT manager that's on the move, that's always in release meetings, that are always talking to our business owners, and we're always getting those same questions. Why do I have defects? What defects do I have? When do you plan on resolving that defect? One of the things that we have with HP Anywhere with the ALM suite of products is we have the capability to set up Anywhere to deliver that information from ALM in a phone format, in a tablet format, and that's starting to grow also with our Advanced MarketPlace user base. So one thing that we're definitely actively engaged in with a lot of our existing customers is rolling out Anywhere for that need. So that just gives you kind of a spin that it is a growing business, not just playing smartphone games and things like that. It's a growing business that will continue to get larger. So we're just developing into that culture that we work on the go, and so this is what's going to enable that to happen. And of course, the demand for new applications. Once again, really, in my opinion, the user is still gauging the demand. They always want more. They want new functions. They want new capabilities to existing products. And once again, it's a snowball effect. That's just going to drive the way we have to quickly develop applications, release applications, and it's going to contribute to those graphs just going more vertical as far as how we deliver applications. And of course, what that means is we have to come up with a new approach of how we build, how we design, how we deliver, how we test applications. The old requirements just really aren't going to cut it anymore. Things that we used to be able to have the luxury to do in a matter of months are a matter of weeks right now. And we can see that that's the case with the healthcare website. They took months and months and months to hammer out some of the aspects of ALM, but yet they realized that they had to test very quickly and only allotted 2 weeks. But if the process, if the methodology, if the tools aren't configured correctly to support that entire process, there's going to be failures. And it only takes one failure to impact the entire application. So, once again, velocity is our driver here. So what is the key to HP Application Lifecycle Management? This is going to be the methodology that we're going to build the products around. So from an R&D perspective, you'll continue for future releases to see the R&D budget, the support budget spent for these same 3 pillars, which is being more predictive, right? Understanding the information that we're putting in and having a way to get it out, whether that's reporting, whether that's executive scorecard, whether that's reporting on HP Anywhere. We want to make sure that everybody involved in the decision making can predict the outcome of the information that we're putting in ALM. Quality. The whole foundation of ALM is to make sure that we're consistently, and this gets into workflow and collaboration, you name it. From a quality aspect, we want to be consistent with the way that we deliver every one of our applications. So you'll just see more speak around quality and how we do quality and how we deliver on quality with ALM. And then the other thing is agility. So how do we do, once again, collaboration? How are we agile? How can we adapt quickly to change? So another one that's changed, specifically the VAs, business analysts, they love their business requirements documents. And, fun anecdote, I've worked with a lot of VAs over my career, and one job I can tell you, and not to offend any VAs that possibly are on this phone call right now, I could never do it. It's not something that I would engage in. I know that they love their business requirements document, but to be honest, when I look at ALM and I talk to customers around ALM, there's still one strategy, and that is our biggest competitor in the BRD and the requirements documentation and management space. And our biggest competitor, to be honest, from an XP standpoint, is Microsoft Word. Business analysts love their Word documents. They're comfortable documenting things in Word. They have templates in Word, and that's great to an extent. But it doesn't have the power of traceability. And so that's what you lose in Word. Where, from an ALM standpoint, an HP ALM standpoint, we have the ability to do text-based requirement solicitation and management. So we can give them a tool they're comfortable with, which is a Word-esque, right? It's kind of embedded Word, but we can also give them the power of the impact analysis, the traceability from requirements all the way through defects. And so that's powerful, because that's just going to give us more capabilities around predictability and reporting the impact in a quicker manner when something changes. And I don't care how good of a business analyst you are. I've never seen anyone capable of doing impact analysis in a very quick manner with Microsoft Word. Even Excel, for that matter, for the organizations that are using Excel for that. So that's really what we're looking for when we talk about agility, and then automation between the product sets. We have a lot of customers that use different pieces of this product set or the IT performance suite across their organization. There's built-in capabilities to integrate and federate the information from one product or one space to another that are already built, and they are very much underutilized across my customer board. So, I come up to a customer and I talk about integrating defect with problem and change tickets, and it's amazing that sometimes they're hearing it for the first time, and it's truly a capability out of the box for the product set. So that the integrations are there. It's just a matter of getting them stood up and functional, and then you have a capability and agility and automation that the whole organization can really benefit from. So that brings us to the ALM product. So, not to confuse the conversations that we were having from a 500-foot level around the methodology and how things should flow in the overall IT performance suite, but we got to talk a little bit about the product. So HP ALM. You may be familiar with HP Quality Center. So if you've seen Quality Center before, understand that HP ALM, the product, is the enterprise version of Quality Center. Your benefits from ALM, you're going to get additional functionality. One of the big ones that was introduced with the first release of ALM was project planning and tracking, or PPT. If you've never seen the PPT functionality, let me demo it for you. Get somebody to demo it for you. It's a great functional improvement, probably one of the biggest ones they've put in the product from new functionality standpoint in a long time. And give you an idea of what that is, if you've ever sat on release meetings, right? These meetings, especially when it comes time to make those go, no-go decisions, we're spending, an hour, 2 hours a week, maybe even twice a week, huddled together in a conference room, and we're talking around, is this ready to go to production? And everybody throws out, oh, this is red, yellow, green, and sometimes it's all based on tribal knowledge, or it depends on what your persona is in the organization. Sometimes it even consists of, did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Or, are you having a bad day and you just want to throw a wrench in a release? Across the board, we talked to customers before we even introduced this functionality, and it was always the same. We use red, yellow, green, except for one. One of my financial customers said, we got rid of red, yellow, green years ago. We use emoticons now, right? So we got smiley faces and not happy faces and sad faces. And I was like, it's kind of the same process. But it was an interesting conversation. They just got fed up with red, yellow, green and different shades of red, yellow, and green. And once again, it's just tribal knowledge. So what PPT can do is we can take that information, that tribal knowledge from a KPI standpoint, we can give that to ALM. And with all the information and work that's going into ALM, the product can calculate what the state of the application or the release is for you. So you get a real-time view. You don't have to worry about all these release meetings and what's changing. You get an up-to-date view of what's changing, and so you can address the points that are possibly impacting the release from a priority standpoint. So that is the purpose of PPT. So once again, I think that's a huge functionality improvement for the product, just new functionality to help make the whole process fluid and flow better. But once again, ALM at its basis is what I like to refer to as the quality hub. It's the system of record for all quality assets. And that's important to note. With ALM, one of the big initiatives is our first foray into the true platform that we always wanted Quality Center to be. So we've merged Performance Center and Quality Center together onto a single platform. So regardless of if it's a functional asset, a performance asset, a defect, a test case, a requirement, what type of requirements, we can have all of our assets housed in one location in one repository. And of course, ALM in general, it goes start to finish, requirements management all the way through defects, and it has a tremendous reporting capability from dashboarding to, once again, if the business analysts like their BRDs, we can do automatic BRD generation. All of those features from a report standpoint are included in the product. And then when there's bolt-ons from an executive view for executive scorecard, we can pull the ALM data set. We can pull that in. We can merge that information with the other HP data set and really give our CEO or CIO or director of apps a very holistic view of what's going on inside of the organization, both from a work standpoint and from a financial standpoint. Another huge benefit with the newer version of ALM 11, 11.5, is enterprise collaboration. So once again, when we're having discussions on requirements, on test cases, or whatever the case may be, we have the ability now to tie that in with our email, with our social media, so that we can collect and capture the conversation as it pertains to a requirement or a change or a test, have a way to search and organize, keep those conversations in context, and actually add them to the repository as an asset. So if you haven't seen enterprise collaboration yet, as far as the new feature inside of ALM, that's also another huge functionality increase in the product with the latest releases. And once again, QA best practices on a proven foundation. HP, since the actual Mercury acquisition, has continued to improve on these product sets. Once again, they're the leader in the market. So you look at any Forrester or any Gartner review for ALM, you're always going to see HP as the leader in this space. That says a lot in itself, but more importantly, from a product standpoint, not to give you, and I've left those out of really the context of this presentation and this webinar. From a technology standpoint, what that really means is we've taken what we've collected and known as far as best practices, what we actually deserve from our customer community, and we constantly include those best practices, those built-in workflows, those built-in reports, canned reports, the ability to generate customized reports. We've taken that information over the last decade, and we've really put that into the product. So you're going to have a lot of out-of-box content. Once again, this is a product that I tout as being an enabler, right? This product should always support your methodology. If you have a methodology in place today, when you set up HP, it should be configured to support that methodology. HPALM should never hinder the process. It's there for automation. It's there for collaboration. So it should make you more agile. That being said, some people are just getting into the HPALM space or revamping the way they do software development or ALM, and that's great. And a good starting place if you don't have one today is some of the predefined content inside of ALM, because once again, it's our proven foundation. It's what we know the majority of our customers in some form or fashion are either experiencing or executing upon. The other thing to keep in mind with ALM, once again, we have HP ALM 11 from a product set, and that's both Quality Center, Performance Center, even app governance. So if you're using any form of SOAR or service governance, that's even embedded in the product. That's once again the core. But ALM as a methodology extends beyond that core product. So I've kind of just documented some of the built-in integrations. So the integrations that HP provide that exist today, once again, between project and portfolio management, understanding what we have to build, what the requests are from an ITSM space as far as enhancement requests or problem requests from Service Manager, and being able to turn those requests into future demand, right? Future maintenance demand. And that future maintenance demand eventually, once it gets approved, is going to link automatically over to HPALM. We want to deliver what we're working on while we're working on it. What's the cost justification? We want to make sure all that is known to the PMO and to the project team that is working in delivery, so delivering applications, so we can deliver that information from PPM over to ALM. As we discover new defects and new information that, once again, is going to be important to ITSM, you can see our channel going back as the number 3 bullet point. We can deliver that information from ALM back to Service Manager. We can go forward. So as we discover and execute on security reviews in production or even pre-production, we can make sure that we're using those assets in a repeatable manner for every release so that we're not introducing security vulnerabilities in the application. App governance, that we're using services in a proper manner, that before we consume a service, that we know we have a service owner, that the service has been tested so that it will be functional. It's not going to be impact to our application as the consumer. We're making sure that the provider has done due diligence before we consume that service or that service call inside of our application. And we're showing that we have accountability for a service, that we have an owner, that we have a life cycle associated with just the service itself, and that we understand that reusable services, if they're going to be impacted or they're going to be changed, we understand all the consumers and we have that traceability, and that's a two-way traceability or synchronization of that information between ALM and HP application governance. And then the other ones are really around sharing information. We do that also in a two-way fashion, and that's sharing and monitoring information both from an application standpoint and an end-user standpoint with operations and vice versa, right? So from an operations standpoint, we can get real user information from BSM, and we can bring those scenarios back to ALM and performance testing to show them this is really what the model is, so that gives them the ability to stop making assumptions on the business processes that are being executed, the volumes at which those business processes are being executed against. We're giving them a period of information, whether that's daily, whether that's weekly, whether that's monthly. We're giving them the scenario and showing what real users are doing in the production application so that they can come back into pre-production, refine their test cases, and be able to give us better information going back for the next release into production. So that's really the synergies of the as-built integrations for HPALM as a methodology, and that extends across the IT Performance Suite. And I said I would touch on some of the next ALM systems. So the latest and greatest is 11.5. I believe we released 11.53 technically, but for a minor version, 11.5 is our latest minor version release. Where we put some of the focus with this minor version release, once again, is lab management. So that's automation of our test labs, and that applies to our functional and our performance assets, being able to spin up, provision, deprovision environments. That just makes our spin from a hardware network management standpoint of these environments. It just reduces the spend associated with those. So really we see a big need in lab management. Once again, reporting. Reporting's great. We've actually built a business view layer between our data source and our ALM product set. So we've built a whole new business view layer. So it's going to streamline the way we report and how we build custom reports. We've increased our license management. So we know that this is ALM in general, a required system for delivering on quality applications. So we kind of went back and evaluated our license management. We have a new way to issue licenses for different personas, and we have on-demand licensing schemes. So you're not going to be impacted by license needs if you're in the middle of a critical release. You can come and always monitor and address your license needs. So that's something that's been included in license management. If you've never heard of Sprinter, Sprinter is an accelerated manual testing product that we give you for free for ALM. So if you're used to the old manual tester, that's still there. You're still able to use manual tester, but we see the future of manual testing, and there's still a very large amount of manual testing in the market, in our customer base. But what Sprinter allows you to do is accelerate some of those mundane tasks of manual testing. So it's kind of like automation light. You don't have to worry about automating traditionally or with business process components with the unified functional testing, but it does do things like give you the ability to create macros. So, our test cases that we're executing against are traditional in nature, and there's always to log in and log out. But the tasks that are really repeatable, we can use Sprinter to macro those so that we have a one-click playback to get us up to the point of our manual test exercises or the other business processes that we need to test against. So that is one thing to keep in mind, that we can build a macro library with Sprinter. Sprinter also has a lot of other great benefits. Smart defect for one of them. We have the ability to watch end user do manual testing. We can do screen capture, we can do video capture, and that becomes part of the defect record. So if something was to go wrong during the test execution, we can see exactly what the tester saw, and we can introduce that into a defect. So no longer are we handing off defects to developers that just say, this feature is broke. We're giving them the information. It's showing the interaction with the application, whether that's a control, whether that's a page. It's showing us the whole business flow that led up to that error. So it's going to give the developer a lot more information utilizing smart defects so that they can resolve that defect or that potential defect faster, set it ready for test, and allow our test community to be notified so that they can go back and execute the test again so that they can clear that defect out. Application Lifecycle Intelligence is all around integration to the development environment. And regardless if you're a waterfall, you're some form of agile methodology, it doesn't matter. This is just our application lifecycle intelligence, and we're going to continue to build on how we integrate with the IDEs. And this is the important thing: is we can take the quality assets to the developer in a tool that they're familiar with, that they're comfortable with, and that happens to be their development environment. So application lifecycle intelligence is all around integrating with Visual Studio, integrating with Eclipse, you name it, even some of the other system or source code repository tools. We have a list of application lifecycle intelligence. And once again, it's an extensible tool. So if you have some form of proprietary IDE or you've customized well outside the normal extent of Eclipse or something like that, you can always go and build that customization, or we can come in and build that customization for you so that you can get the assets to the IDE. And then, of course, enterprise collaboration and integrating with Outlook and Communicator and things like that. Enterprise collaboration is just the ability to work on an asset and at the same time use our native social tools to capture the information as we're exchanging text messages or emails around that asset and understand what the communication trail was. Both for an understanding, a knowledge repository, and even audit capabilities so that we understand what exactly was discussed, when something was changed or when something was deleted or added. And that's what we do with enterprise collaboration. So you'll see a lot more information and build around EC in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this Advanced Marketplace Lifecycle Management webinar. Be sure to check out all of our informative webinars designed to help your business.